Hello, dear friends. It's Carly, and welcome to another episode of the I Learned podcast. This is the second one in a row that I am filming in the kiddie pool in my yard. It's becoming my new favorite. Living in Kansas, it's a very seasonal thing that I get to do, so you gotta, make hay while the sun shines, so to speak. So, here we are. I listened back to the last episode and realized it sounds like I'm in the bathtub, but I'm not. I'm in the kiddie pool in my yard. That's why every once in a while you can hear people drive by and honk and my dogs bark at me and all of that good stuff because yeah, we're hanging out in the front yard. I hope you're somewhere equally as relaxed as I am in this moment. I'm very excited to get to tell this story. I've been waiting for a piece to come into place, and am excited to tell the whole thing from the beginning all the way through where I am right now, which is by no means the end. So, it all started with an invitation to give a speech. Yes, Scooby. Pretty much every time I get asked to give a speech, I say yes. That's like the universe knows that the path of least resistance to get Carly to do something is to ask her to give a speech, and she'll be there. She'll make it happen. So I got asked to do a speech, and it was related to grocery stores, and the title of the thing was Recruiting Store Managers. And I was actually a co-presenter. There was another chick, and it was only an hour long. So my portion of it was like maybe 25 minutes, and it was an unpaid event. Like I would do it for the good of helping other people to learn and get ready for whatever grocery store business transitions they had in their future. And I was totally cool with that because, like I said, I got to give a speech and I'm always down. So I gave my speech, and pretty much right after that, I get an email saying, hey, guess what? We want to pay you a $200 honorarium. I had to Google what honorarium meant. It meant that they don't owe me any money, but they want to pay me some money anyway. And so, yeah, $200 in my mailbox in like a week later. So I got paid for the thing that wasn't supposed to be paid, and I celebrated that $200 like it was $1 million. It was such a cool moment of following the path of most fun, like doing the free thing because it was exciting and that's what I want to do anyway. So of course I'm totally down to do this fun thing. And then some money trickled in from me doing the fun thing. I was like, oh, all right then, that's pretty cool. So fast forward another couple weeks, and I get another email from those same contacts saying, hey, we've put together this mentorship program where we want grocery professionals, that would be me, to meet with grocery newbies and have 4 1-hour Zoom calls to help them with wherever they are on their path. And we would match you up with whoever would be the best fit for your experience. And do you want to do this? And I said, yes, of course. Like, that sounds amazing. Those are just like mini speeches with one-person audiences. So, of course, again, I'm in. And then I find out that it's a paid opportunity. And for every match they make for you, you get $500. So they wanted to know if I wanted to do 1 or 2. And I was like, well, I mean, at this point, I'm just living on weekend time for the most part. I got a very clear schedule. So I told them like I would be totally available for two matches if you have somebody that would be a good fit for me. And they ended up coming back saying that there's only one match, and here they are, and this is the introduction, and like here's what you need to do. And I was totally cool with it because I was like, oh my goodness, like that's $500 that is coming from 4 1-hour Zoom sessions and talking about something that I know like the back of my hand. So that's so cool. And then fast forward another couple weeks, and then the check comes and they paid me $1,000. And I'm just sitting here saying hallelujah, thank you to the universe for that money and all this extra flowing forward from like I didn't even think that the speech was going to be paid in the beginning. And now here's $1,000 from an opportunity that came out of that speech. Plus the $200 that they paid me for the speech that I wasn't even expecting. Like, oh my God, this $1,200, like it's pure magic, right? Like the path of most fun kind of magic. And then, oh my goodness. So when I met Amy is her name. She and her husband they just opened their new grocery store this past week. And so when I met them a couple months ago, they were in the final stages of getting ready to open, and they still had a lot of unfinished, going back to when I opened Cecil K's, like those last 2 weeks, oh my God, like literally 50% of all the action that you do is in those last 2 weeks. It's almost unlivable, but you make it happen because that's what you do. That's what you signed up for. And so they just opened this last week. So when I met them, they had a lot of half finished pictures of what the store was going to be when it opened. So a lot of room to be able to help them. And I realized like almost instantly that these 4 1-hour Zoom calls aren't going to be enough time to help them as much as I wish I could, as much as I see that they need, and that I have the knowledge that would help them. But, we've only been commissioned to spend these 4 1-hour sessions together. So I chose, because it was fun and it was just flowing out of me, I chose to make documentation that like lists of questions and lists of information and sample documents that I had put together for our own business. I pulled all of this information together and curated it for her and sent those documents so that they could be having discussions on their time in between our calls, so that when we came back together next time for the next Zoom session, that we could move ahead that much further. And that just made sense because they needed help. I was able to help. Why wouldn't I do it? It just flowed right out of me. Again, following the path of most fun to make those documents. Fast forward to the third call of the mentorship meeting. Remember, there were only 4. So this is the third call, and I'm making about my third set of documentation of things that she could use help with and knowledge that I have, and I'm building this documentation, and I get the idea. Wouldn't it be cool to make a set of training modules that taught you the full life cycle of a grocery store? Like how to build it from the ground up, which I did, how to run it, which I also did, and then how to optimize it, which I also did. So I have experience on all of this, that I could take all of that experience end to end on the cycle, and I could put it into these training modules, and then it would just be there for anybody who wanted to know. Like they could just watch the video and like there it is. There's all the information you need to be successful doing this yourself. And if you watch the whole series, then you could open a grocery store yourself and make this business. And there are so many food deserts, not only in Kansas, in the whole US. A food desert is just where there is no grocery store. Like you have to drive, like I don't know what the proper definition of a food desert is, but this project is categorized as one, and the nearest grocery store is about 15 miles away. So that is considered a food desert for the purpose of the funding that paid for that mentorship program. And in doing the mentorship program gave me this idea for this whole set of training modules to open a grocery store. Because the main thing I learned about opening a grocery store is it's hard work. It's a lot of work. There's a million little pieces that need woven together before opening day. And then you need to run it. And you need to make sure that you have the revenue, you have the money in the bank to pay the very high cost of doing business as a grocery store. We're talking like through our little store, $40,000 or $50,000 a week. We need to make that money just to be able to pay bills. So the margins are small, and it's just a high volume business. So there's a lot of different pieces that come together to make it all make sense. And that's what, I lived it. For the last 4.5 years, right? See, this is me trying to do time again. So Chad and I started April of 2017. This past April was 4 years. So it's, just over 4 years of building a grocery store, running it, and then optimizing it, and then transitioning it to new management. So take all of that experience and build it into something that can help other people. This idea felt so good. Oh my goodness, I can't even tell you how many times I journaled about it, how many times I added to it, and then I made a list of what the modules would be. Like, here's the ones that you need to know for opening the store, and here's what you need to know for running the store, and here's how the process would work if you were ready to optimize your store. Like, I made that list just for fun, just because I could, and it seemed like such a good idea, like such a valuable idea, and I wanted to, so I did. And all of that was in my free time. And then fast forward to, we get to the end of the mentorship program, and that is when Amy basically said I could still use some help. Like, they weren't even open yet at that point. And so there was still some work to be done to get open, and then they were going to be open, and that's like a whole new phase of figuring out the process. So she asked me if I would continue helping her, and I told her, like, go back to the program and ask them, fixing the food deserts program, ask them if there's money to continue paying me to help you, because yes, I would love to. And through that channel, a contract was extended for me to continue helping her for 4 more months for $4,000. So that came out of the speech that I agreed to give for free. So I start helping her, and all the while this contract is coming about, my contacts at the Grocery Institute that they're the ones that organize the food desert program. They send me this RFP. RFP stands for Request for Proposal. It means that the group has money and they're looking to spend it, and they want proposals from whoever wants to submit one about how might we spend this money. Like, if you submit a proposal, basically you're saying, I would do this work and you would pay me this amount of money, and they consider all of the proposals that they get, and they decide based on how much money they have to spend which proposals they want to choose. So I got forwarded this RFP that's floating around. This group, they got funding. They're looking for business training and specifically grocery training materials, whatever that might look like. It might be in-person trainings. It might be something different. They're good with whatever. Just submit the proposals and they'll pick from there. So ding, ding, ding. I basically took my idea for the grocery training videos, which was fully developed. I had the list of modules already written because I did that just for fun. I had it saved on my computer, and so I just copied that and put it onto the RFP and submitted it. I only had 2 days when the RFP was forwarded to me before the deadline, so I had 2 days to write my proposal. And it took me like 2 hours because I already had the idea, I already had the list of modules and how it would all come together. I had already envisioned all of that just for fun. And so because I had all of that ready, I was ready. I was poised and ready with this idea, this very awesome idea. I felt amazing about it. And I was even journaling things like, wouldn't it be cool if the universe figured out a way to pay me to make all of these because they need made? That it would be so valuable to have this information documented somewhere where people can just go and at their own pace learn what they need to learn to open new grocery stores, because again, the number of food deserts in this country is awful. So this is a way that I could help on a macro level, more than just me opening one individual store at a time, which again, like I said, is very time consuming. I could teach other people how to open grocery stores, and together we could open a whole fleet, a whole chain of all of these stores that are situated in areas where they don't have access to healthy food right now. And we could fix that. So that was very much where my heart was in coming up with the idea. And then 2 days before this RFP deadline, the universe gives the idea to this chick I know at the Grocery Institute, and she forwards me the invitation to submit to this RFP. And like I said, it took me a couple hours to write it up. I had 2 days, so I slept on it for a couple days. I reread it on the due date and I sent it in. And they had said that it would be about 2 weeks before they made any decisions. They got so many they got so many proposals in response to their RFPs. It took them like 4 or 5 weeks to get back to me and say that we've chosen your project. We would like to work with you. We want to see you create this. And they asked me, I think that first stage was to reprice my list of modules because I had submitted 35 modules, 35 pieces that if you understood all of this, you could open a grocery store and run it and make it profitable. And they basically said, like, instead of charging an average price per module, go ahead and price them individually. Like, which ones would be more expensive, which ones would be cheaper, and we want to see that list. So I did that and sent it back to them. The next response I got was, we want to streamline this and we want to condense this into 10 training modules. So definitely a smaller package of training modules, and you're welcome to like reorganize and reprice however you would see fit, but we want 10 on the list. And so I, again, reorganized, I crammed all the topics together. I think I left out maybe just a couple that I couldn't find how to fit it in. But otherwise, I still had my 35 topics represented. It was just all in the space of 10 modules. And repriced and sent back. And that was when they responded and said, this looks good. They sent a contract. And a couple days ago, I signed a contract for $15,600 that they are going to pay me to make this project. So from going all the way back to the beginning, from the speech that I agreed to give that was supposed to be an unpaid opportunity and eventually paid me $200, the chain of unfolding from that speech, which they asked me in like January, February of this year, and then I think the actual speech was, I think it was at the end of March. I would have to go back and look. It was definitely a couple months in advance. And, you know, now here we are at the 1st of July, and that speech has unfolded into over $20,000 of income that was available to me because I agreed to give that speech for the fun of it. So the path of most fun, that's what it looks like. I have another smaller example where, again, it started with a speech because the universe knows me inside and out and knows that inviting me to give a speech is always a sure thing. And in this other opportunity, I was giving a speech about how to do your own self-publishing on Amazon because that's one of my favorite hobbies. I kind of relax. It's like a meditative state to like make journal covers and publish those on Amazon. And, you know, worst case scenario, I get to design the cover that I want for my next journal. And I need a new journal, you know, all the time, it seems. So I'm going to give a speech about teaching people how to do their own self-publishing. Well, a gentleman showed up to that event. Both, it was a 2-part. One was a panel about why and how, like why more, I guess, why and the creative process around self-publishing that each of us had found. There were 4 of us that sat on that panel. And the second part was a technical demonstration of how would you actually walk through the process of creating a cover, using tangent templates to create the interior, and then submitting your creation through Kindle Direct Publishing or KDP and having them review it, which would ultimately put it for sale on Amazon. So that's something that, I mean, I don't even know at this point, like 300 maybe books that I have. It's probably more than that now with that latest project. But anyways, a lot of books. It's fun. It's like easy peasy. It's kind of mindless. It doesn't really matter. It's just a good palate cleanser type of activity that I engage in. And I mean, I think if you want to like understand in perspective, like my revenue from the books that I've published on KDP, it's like less than 1% of my annual income at this point. But it is a really great way that I relax and I am creative and I get my juices flowing kind of thing. So anywho, so I give this speech. The guy comes and he has zero technical abilities. He's like 70 years old, so he has no interest in being taught how to self-publish his books, but he does have 2 books that he's written. One of them is purely electronic, and one of them is a paper manuscript that he typed on a typewriter back in like the early 80s. So those are the 2 books that he has. So we started with the... My cat is meowing at the door. Again, I'm not in the bathtub. I know it sounds like I just got out of the bathtub, but I promise I didn't. Lola. She's so persistent. Scroober followed her in. Anywho, so he's got 2 books, and he contacts me after that presentation, and this is also in February, like back before the other speech, like before this other big unfolding that led to over $20,000 in income. This one was unfolding first. And so again, so going back, he wanted somebody to basically publish his work for him. So he wanted to pay somebody else to do it rather than learn how to do it himself, which never even crossed my mind as a possible way to make money off of, obviously you can sell your books on Amazon. So it had occurred to me that my books would sell and I would make money on Amazon from this hobby. That was possible. But I never thought that I would like use these skills from my hobby to do the services on behalf of other people and make money that way. That was totally unconceived in my mind. So throughout like publishing his first book, which was the electronic copy, I think that amounted to about $450 in total that he paid me to get that first book published. And then we went through the second book, and that one I think also worked out to about $450, $475 maybe, that he paid me to publish that second book. And the second book is a fun story because that just happened like here within the last few weeks. This part all unfolded. And that is that okay, so I'm just going to own my authenticity, and I know that who I'm going to talk about, she listens, and so this is an accomplishment for us both, I feel like, because the money that I was making off of doing that second book with this guy, I felt comfortable outsourcing some of the work to somebody else to do that work and finish this project so we can close the book on it, get paid on it, and move on to the next thing. So I hired a creative assistant, is what I'm going to call her. She's doing way more than just working on this book with me. We're working on a lot of different things that hopefully the first part of it is ready to come out next week. So that's really exciting. I'll be talking about that soon. But I felt comfortable outsourcing, finishing typing the paper manuscript because like it's literally a paper manuscript. It was typed on a typewriter, in 81. So that's like 40 years ago. So, no offense to anybody who's feeling old at that comment. Anywho, so she typed the last bit of it. She also proofread the last bit of it. And this is where it gets really delicious because he and I had a proofreading rate on the first book, and it was the same as the rest of the work. I just set a flat rate. I did all the work for that flat rate and, published his book. All good. And I told him for the second one, the proofreading is really heavy. It's very time intensive. Like you have to really focus into it, and finding the time to really focus into it, like, and give it the respect that it deserves. Like I'm going to have to raise the rate on that service. And so I did, and raised it almost double what the other rate was because I was secretly hoping he wouldn't want me to proofread it because it's seriously so time consuming and so like cross-eyed type time, and it's just not in my wheelhouse. So anyways, so I offer it to my creative assistant as an audition. There's 1 hour of proofreading left on this manuscript. If you want to do it, I'll pay you this rate, which was about a third of what I was getting paid. And I I gave it to her. And if she did a good job, if she, I read the manuscript at the end, and if there's stuff I would have fixed, I make sure it actually got fixed in the final copy. And if the proofreading went well, there's proofreading opportunities in the future. And so, I mean, on that 1 hour of her effort, I made 2/3 of the revenue. She still got paid at even a higher rate than the other things I was paying her for. So she got her income and her manifestation of money flowing to her. And I got the manifestation of the beauty of outsourcing, where I got paid 2/3 of the rate for an hour of work that I didn't do. And that was probably more satisfying than the $15,000 contract that I just signed, was getting paid to employ other people. That is truly delicious. Creating opportunities for other people to work and other people to shine their light and use their talents, and paying them an above fair rate, and making money on those endeavors at the same time. Being the coordinator of other people getting to show up and offer their spiritual gifts. And I just get paid to keep the whole thing moving forward. It is like beyond, beyond me living my dreams. So that is my story that I really, oh my goodness, it's been almost 26 minutes. I really have been excited to tell that from the beginning, because like I said, both of these experiences, one was like $900 in income, one was like $20,000, $21,000 in income. And both of them started with a speech that I agreed to give because it sounded like fun to do it. So I guess the takeaway, and I'm telling this to myself as much as anybody else, the takeaway is to find the fun. Find your passion. Find what speaks to you, what is easy for you, what sounds like a brilliant idea to you, and then run with it. Don't wait for somebody to pay you to run with it. Just run with it. Run with it anyway. And watch the money line up with where you are. Like, it has blown my mind to go through this process and watch, one individual 25-minute speech turn into $20,000 worth of opportunities. It is truly remarkable. And that's my evidence. That's my reward for learning how to walk this path of most fun. So I think that's all I got. Except for one more little snippet, little treat, that if you've made it this far, I hope you enjoy this next little bit. I'm dedicating it to a very special lady in my life, DJ Jr., and I hope she enjoys, and I hope you enjoy. So, until next time, dear friends. Bye-bye.